Good morning, my beautiful, powerful listeners. It's another episode of the Powerful Inc. Startup Stories podcast. And today we're speaking with Janyelle Milton. Oh my God, you guys, the founder, the creator, the fashionista of J. Marie Premium Sneakers. Please go to that website right now while you're listening and look at the shoes that she has created. So many times I have said in my 41 years of life to date that women's shoes are for fashion, not function. And then Janyelle has come into the world with a shoe that is fashionable and functional. She's laughing at me. Welcome to the show, Janyelle. So excited to have you here. So impressed with what you've created. And I cannot wait to go exploring into your brain and soul around your business and how you did this.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here as well. I'm just like holding back my giddiness while you're introducing, like, am I supposed to be making a sound right now? But
Yes, absolutely. There's no rules.
thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk with you.
Awesome, awesome. Me too. So, you guys, like I said, so Janyelle was working corporate, was wearing heels, and her feet were hurting, and she
Yeah,
didn't want to give up fashion for function, which is badass,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
the funny story is growing up, you would never catch me in gym shoes, jeans. I grew up in a church, so I was
Mm,
always wearing dresses and
mhm.
it kind of just stuck with me as I got older. And I was always in heels, and you just never could catch me in gym shoes because I at the time I thought it was very masculine.
Mhm.
No nothing to anybody, you know what I mean? But that's
And
the
sneakers were gym shoes, right? Like you're already
yeah.
making that as they're for the gym. You don't wear them out. Yeah. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's ironic that out of all businesses, it would be sneakers for that.
And then God
Oh,
or the
so
universe is like, actually, no, you're going to be the sneaker queen, and here's what it's going to look
yeah,
like.
absolutely. So that I always tell people that because it's so ironic. I know that people who grew up with me is like, where the heck did that come from? Because
Okay.
it was something I always had an interest in shoes, but it wasn't ever a focus on gym shoes for that matter.
Okay. And then they see your sneaker, and literally, you guys, you got to go see them. Obviously, I'm going to have pictures in the promo, but like, you got to go see them. And they
Mm,
scream my personality, which is like
awesome.
crazy rainbow bright colors in
Yes,
wild
and
patterns.
that
Like,
is another thing that I get asked a lot as well, because people are like, does that reflect your personality? And I think with
mm,
everything and everybody, we always have like an alter ego because in real life, I am definitely not a loud color or pattern person. I
ah,
am very monotone. I'm always in my blacks, my neutrals. However, I would say I always did pops of colors, but you would think like as um bold as my designs are that I'm like this bold eccentric dresser, and that is totally opposite.
oh my
So
God, super interesting. Because yes, I was saying like I want to know more about you as well, creating these sneakers that like I dreamed about before you made them
oh,
real. Um,
awesome.
and the secret sauce that we haven't yet dropped too is how you materialized manufacturing them. So it's not like Janyelle's sitting in the basement making sneakers like how we're coaching or serving or copywriting for clients if we're service based. Like these are actual shoes that actually get worn for years. They look very durable.
Yes.
And so you had to figure that out. So take me through, Janyelle, the day where you were like, oh my God, I'm going to design a sneaker.
hmm Sure. So I kind of always was like a serial entrepreneur, right? All throughout my life so far. I've always just been that kind of person who's like, I'm going to do this. I want to start this. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
So I always had that aspect going on. And I went to school for management. So business was always kind of in the background, or in most cases the foreground. But what kind of made it go into the direction of sneakers is I had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And anybody who knows anything about that particular autoimmune disease, it can be very uncomfortable within your body. You're
Mhm.
dealing with all types of different um, symptoms, from achiness to just, one minute you could be okay, next minute you just completely debilitated. So I had wanted to start dressing more comfortable and just kind of change my whole style. I went to from wearing, I'm a corporate girl, so I would always
Mhm.
be, suited and booted, as they would say.
Suited and booted. I love that.
So I
Clever.
was always having on, like, the suit, the dresses, the skirts, outfits. So I
Right.
just kind of steered from that and kind of was always wanting to wear like very loose fitting clothes and, jogging suits and things that weren't um,
Mm.
form fitting. And with that,
Mhm.
of course, someone could pull it off, but definitely not me. I couldn't pull off, the way I wanted to dress with heels. So I just kind of started looking for alternatives, like, okay, let me try different brands and kind of see what works with my style. And I couldn't find anything I liked. I still have the same idea about gym shoes. Like, oh my God, this is so masculine. Like,
Mm.
I'm not a basketball player. I'm not,
Mhm.
athletic. So I just couldn't find anything that matched my style. So
Mhm.
years ago, and I'm not going to age myself, but I did attempt to start a footwear company, but it was heel centric. So I
Uh-huh.
kind of just revisited that idea, like, hey, I should start
Ah.
my own brand and create my own sneakers that, for women like me, because I felt like it was a complete opportunity. I felt like that demographic was not being addressed in the market. So I just
Yeah.
thought, why not? And
Yeah.
it just kind of went from there. And I knew that I wanted it to be premium. When I think of heels, I always, or most of us do, because I wouldn't imagine putting yourself through that torture in a cheap heel. So most women invest in
Okay.
their heels
Yeah.
because they want to make sure they're sturdy. They want to make
Yeah.
sure, they're comfortable. And
Mhm.
usually
Mhm.
that's on the high end of things. So I knew that if I was going to do this, I wanted it to be premium. So when I thought of premium, when I was kind of brainstorming, I just kept going to European, Italian fashion. And I'm just like, it has to be made in Italy. It has to be made in Italy.
Cool.
Um, so that's just kind of the beginnings of how it started. So I just was on a quest to find, like, how can I make this happen?
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not in Italy. I'm not from Italy. So how could I incorporate this in the brand with
Yeah.
no kind of ties? And I just was doing research, and lo and behold, came
Okay.
across a company that I was able to develop a partnership with, that was located in a world-renowned region in Italy, at Marche, Italy, where
Um,
they have over 20 years experience in craftsmanship, and they've made shoes for major brands that we all are familiar with, like Gucci, Taj, Chanel, Prada, just to name a few. And I was just like, oh yeah, this is it. I can now develop the brand that I've been thinking of all these years. And it just kind of
oh my
from there and took off. It honestly, before it even became a business, I kind of just was getting shoes made for myself, but
yeah.
I was getting so many compliments. That's when it kind of was like, okay, this is about to be a bit.
So getting shoes made for yourself with the Italian designer?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So then you get to test the product, test that relationship.
Exactly, exactly. And I always it's interesting because I just recently, a few weeks ago, did a podcast and that came up, and I'm just like, I totally forgot about that aspect,
Okay.
because I had to go take myself back in my thought, like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, you weren't even trying to start a business at first. You just
Just
wanted to,
needed a shoe that you could wear.
yeah.
So were you still working and or are still working in corporate?
Well, right now, I've always been a person who dealt with insurance, every aspect of it, from, life insurance to health insurance to,
Okay.
property and casualty insurance. So I think that that's always going to be something that I'm always going
Okay.
to have my hand in, but
Okay.
not on a full-time basis of
Okay.
like being in corporate America. It's more of like, at my own leisure if I decide to.
Okay.
But at that
So
time, I was working
yeah.
full time, but not right now.
So you get the like, oh, so much. Love this. You guys draw in here, draw in. So Janyelle has an idea. It's crazy. It seems like it's not suited to her, but it's for her. And the intuition is there, pulsing, boom, 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 boom. Janyelle, whispering to her. And
Mhm.
so then you start exploring research, right? Sometimes we forget that we don't have to figure everything out ourselves, and like research is looking for something. So I really want to highlight that you did some research on this to remind ourselves of what's available out there, because you said the research led you, you had a region in mind, you had a country in mind, and the research led you right specifically into who is now making your shoe. and
Absolutely.
and you would not have found that if you were like not researching or not, going out into the world to um
Absolutely. Or even just
pull.
having a clear idea of
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, kind of just came to me, once I had an idea of this, it has to be this. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the research just went in that direction.
Yeah. And then you were able to like explore that relationship. And I was asking where the work was going because I'm just curious and all over the place ish. um, but curious about like, getting that shoe made, and then where you were wearing it in your life and how it was starting to fit in to the demographic that you had in mind
Mm.
as a client for this product.
Wow. Yeah, that's, what, I never even thought about it that way. And you're absolutely right. It was corporate America that kind of just gave that push because, like I said, I just started wearing them because it was just something I was doing for myself.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I was working with, a lot of women were like,
Yeah.
wow, where did
Yeah.
you get these from? Those are really cute. Or wow, those are nice because they are leather, so they give you
Yeah.
they don't really necessarily have that feel that you traditionally think of when you wear gym shoes. A lot of times especially when you think of adjectives like comfortable, you think like cotton or you think nylon, and
Yeah.
it's usually very athleisure. And this wasn't that. So I think that's kind of what caught a lot of people eye, especially in that demographic, because it was like, wow, that's really nice. And it wears well with a suit. And it's almost like it's still being dressed up, or you can actually dress it down if you wanted to. So I think that was kind of what was kind of fine tuning the brand and the kind of idea of where I wanted to go with this, because it kind of just started creating itself. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, I do. This is another important part I'm going to pull out. The business becomes its own living entity. And so
Mhm.
you've birthed it into the world, but now you're like supporting it and
Mhm.
nurturing it. And this
Yeah.
is in the preamble, we talked about like who we are
Mhm.
and where the business is in our life. So, that's another beautiful thing. And you recognizing that is what I would consider a great wisdom, because now you can look at it for what it is and love on it and bring yourself to it, but give it space to be its own thing at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that that is very important because I always tell people that I am a non-traditional, non-performance business person because I kind of got into the space of entrepreneurship, especially with J. Marie Premium Sneakers, where it was just so opposite of how I usually do things or how
Oh,
business is traditionally done, right? And I say that because you're always told, especially in business school, you develop this business plan, you kind of
yeah.
do everything everything kind of already has to be planned out, and you want to
Mhm,
benchmark your company, right? You want to
mhm,
find a company that's kind of doing what you want to do and kind of pattern yourself off of that. And
mhm.
J. Marie Premium Sneakers was everything but that. It was kind of
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
there's nothing to pattern yourself off of, and let alone I didn't even want to do that. And it just kind of everything just kind of fell into place on its own. And it was just like, yeah, it's meant to be because it's just happening.
it is. And so now I want to know, I'm so curious about the relationship with the Italian shoemaker. You
Mm,
just call them, you just email them and say, I have a concept. Can you create it? What was that like?
Essentially, exactly like that. I
See,
reached out.
guys, it's so simple. Don't complicate it. I love
Yeah,
it.
exactly, because I think I've always been like a very ambitious person. I used to have this saying, right, where I would say, hang around people who, if you tell them you want to have a birthday party at Taj Mahal, they're just like, when, and not asking the mechanics of how are you going to do that, or
Okay.
can't do that.
Yeah.
So I just always had that mindset of like when I want to do something, it's just never this fear or idea of you can't do that, because I totally at the time didn't even think like, I don't speak Italian. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about the area. I don't
Yeah.
know how this goes. Like, what
Or
am I
even like about shoes and like because like
exactly
the colors, so they're leather, so the colors, the patterns, the even the shapes.
right, absolutely. I just had an idea that I knew that I wanted it to be premium, and I knew
Okay.
that the things that were associating in my mind when I thought of premium, I know it was Italian. I know it was leather, and I
Hmm.
knew it was just kind of like that was the vibe I wanted to go for. So initially when I reached out, it was very vague. It wasn't, as defined. It wasn't even a brand yet. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm looking
Yeah.
for, some comfortable shoes, and I was wondering if you could make this, and I want it to look like this, and I couldn't even draw.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of, back and forth with, change this to that, put this here, do this, could you make this look like this? And just kind of
Wow.
having all these different inspirations to kind of like pointing and circling to this and saying, well, I want it to look like this, but not this
Um,
part. And then eventually, the first sneaker was made, and my very first design was actually the Born in the 80 retro trainers. And at the time, it didn't even have a name. It was just, a sneaker that I had made. But then when I started wearing it and getting compliments and came up with the concept of, hey, I'm going to turn this into a sneaker brand, it was like I wanted it to be a sneaker brand that told a story about who I am, Janyelle J. Marie.
mhm,
It's my first initial and my middle name is Marie.
mhm.
And then I was like, well, how does this story begin? And that's how it started. I was like, well, with any story, it starts from the beginning. I was born in the 80s. So it was just like, these are
Mm,
going to be called Born in the 80s retro trainers. And I'm just going to
mm.
keep telling this story. And each sneaker is going to represent like a part or a facet of my life. And it just, kept growing from there.
That's amazing.
Thank
And
you.
so now you have a relationship with this company, and is it like a drop ship type of situation? So customers come to the website, order the shoe, the order gets triggered in Italy and fulfilled and then
Yes,
sent, right?
yes, yes. And
Amazing.
in you can have, you know, I do consult with people where we could do a little bit more customization if that's something that you're looking for, where we work together to do a design. That's definitely an option. But with the sneakers that are on the website, it works exactly like that. You
Okay.
just place the order. All of the sneakers on the website are handcrafted, so they're not mass produced, which is another great thing that I love because I always thought of handcrafted, obviously handmade anything is going to be of more quality because it's more
Mhm.
attention to detail. It's going to be more durable, and it's, handcrafted. So from the time you place the order to the time it ships to your door, it's literally 7 to 15 business days. Everything is made by hand. And it was just like, oh my goodness, I this couldn't have came out any better, and then the family, they're so knowledgeable that they teach me things, and there's just more and more things that are improved upon
Ah,
over the
so
years, and I'm able to add input. So it's just a wonderful relationship, honestly.
so a perfect chemistry between creator and executor, and
Mm,
you are growing the shoe together. Like they're probably love the concept. They must have,
yeah,
like, did they get super excited at the onset when you presented this? Were they like
yeah, actually,
open and
they were very excited, and that's another thing that kind of got the idea juices flowing, because it was like when I would get things kind of like fine tuned to what I wanted to look like, they would send me compliments like, "That's really nice,"
mm,
or "Wow,
mhm.
this is really nice." And I just kind of thought like, "Am I a shoe designer?" So,
Yep, you are. I'm looking at them. I'm like, I want
yes,
this pair. I want that pair.
absolutely. So it was, and they would say things like that, like, "Wow, that's a unique design," or "Wow, this came
Mhm.
out really great," or that
Mm.
I would get all these different accolades, and I just was like, if these people, work
Mhm.
with world renowned brands, and they're
Yeah,
like giving me compliments on things that
yeah,
I came up with, like, who's stopping me from doing this thing? I think,
yeah,
if I was to give any advice or have your listeners walk away with anything, I think we're always, and I don't think it's a bad idea to go into something with experience, so I'm
yeah.
definitely not saying, try to do something and not have the experience, especially depending on what it is. But I think a lot of times we kind of get paralyzed and not move forward in
Yeah.
ideas that we have, because we're like, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't
Mhm,
go to
mhm,
school for design. And if I would have let that determine whether or
mhm.
not I moved forward, I wouldn't have did anything, because I would have
Yeah,
been like, well, I'm not supposed to do this because I don't have the credentials. I didn't go the traditional path of people who do this. I didn't take that path, so I'm not supposed to do it. I didn't develop that idea. I was just like, who says I can't? There's no rules to this.
who says you can't? And that whisper was there, and whether you pursued it or not, J. Marie Premium Sneakers would have always been somewhere in the cosmos of your being.
Yes, yes, that is so true, because it just kind of created itself, if that even makes sense, because it
Through
was just like
you. And
everything
that,
just interlocked it with each other.
like that detachment, like really lean in here, guys, that detachment and acknowledging of it, it came through me and is now taking a life of its own, is like a very healthy mindset
Mm,
and way to hold space for the business
mhm,
without defining your value or your worthiness or your success to it, right? So now
mhm.
you can coexist beautifully as separate entities that have a strong connection,
Absolutely.
and let them evolve as they go. So let's go there now with you. I love the way that you talk about this business. I love the certainty in what you wanted. That was a repetitive theme in this conversation so far. Very, very clear on what it was going to be, how it was going to look, where it
Mhm.
was going to be made. And then those things all lined up, and this beautiful relationship has come. Now you have a website, you're, marching it out to the world. And how have you changed with this business, having, this entrepreneurial familiarity and experiences, and working in insurance is like, I don't know, heavy business. Like that's no
Right, right.
small fries, right?
Absolutely.
And what are you doing now to continue to nurture J. Marie Sneakers and get it on like everybody's feet?
Absolutely. So I think that one of the ways that this journey has changed me is to believe more in myself and to be more
Mm,
daring. and just
Mhm.
kind of stretch myself and always and I've developed a mindset of, if it's not an idea that doesn't absolutely scare you
Mm.
or make you feel fearful of doing it, it's not big enough because
Mhm.
everything that you do should stretch you. It should take you out of your comfort zone. It should cause you to have to grow into it because you have to learn how to do this. You have to teach yourself this, or you have to actually go to school for something or do this. And
Mhm.
I think with any goal that anyone has, if it's not stretching you or causing you to have to become a different person to even do it, then maybe it's not something that is, challenging enough. And I think that this business has challenged me a lot and continues to do so because I'm constantly finding myself growing and kind of morphing into this
Mhm.
person to have to run a business that has kind of created or has such this big personality.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. And I think right now where I'm at with it is just kind of still allowing, like you said, this organic growth of the brand itself and kind of just steering that thing, just
Yeah.
this is what this is and staying authentic to that and just making sure that I tell that story authentically and just over time I'm just, d- developing more and more about this brand and making sure that I stay true to that and making sure that everything that I do speaks to that and is, on brand with that. And one of the things that is something that I always want to make sure is the foundation of the brand that I always started with from the beginning was I wanted it to be premium. I wanted
Mhm.
it to be style,
Mhm.
comfort,
Mhm.
quality, and color. That's kind of like
Mhm.
the guiding force of the
All
brand. And
the
I
things that women's shoes aren't typically.
exactly, exactly, because you're always sacrificing something for the other, you're
Mhm.
always sacrificing comfortability for style or,
Mhm.
style for comfortability. You never, at least I never seen the two in one, either it's a very comfortable shoe and it's not highly stylish, or
Yeah.
it's a highly stylish shoe, but it's not necessarily comfortable, right?
Yep.
So I always
Absolutely.
wanted to be like all those things can coexist, and I think that's kind of like the foundation of the brand. So I always try to stay true to that.
So it sounds in the way that you describe that you're letting the business now guide you. You're listening to the business, almost like asking you, can you provide me with this? And can you provide me with that? And can you honor this part of me?
Absolutely. I never even thought about it like that, but even just hearing myself talk, I'm
Mhm.
just like,
Yeah.
wow, that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened because it wasn't like this thing of where I, went in with, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. It was just kind of like everything just kind of, you know, when I got the sneakers made and people kept saying, "Oh, those look very comfortable." And I like the fact that they're actually cute. Like that,
Mhm.
those are really, really nice, and it was just kinda like, "Okay, it's stylish, it's comfortable." And it was just like these whispers, of
Yeah.
what this is. And then over time, it just kind of developed into like this cohesive brand because initially, believe it or not, I'm like a big music, hip hop, old school R&B head. And it was like that's the angle I was trying to make this thing come from. And it was just
Okay.
like this, what is this? Where am I even going with this? Like you can't develop a sustainable business off of one aspect of something,
Yeah.
because it's not big enough to develop into all these phases. But then I thought like J. Marie premium sneakers, J. Marie is like every facet of me and
Yeah.
what I am, what I was, what I'll become.
Yes.
That's sustainable. It can evolve to so
It
many
can
different
evolve.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is being open and exploring and adapting with that core foundation in place,
Absolutely.
which
Yeah.
is like what we're doing, right? We're constantly evolving, but there's groundedness, I guess, in
Mm,
the process.
absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to have something that keeps the whole thing anchored, kind of like the founding
Mhm.
principles, but you have
Yeah.
to be adaptable enough to let it
Yeah.
evolve
Yeah.
into, different facets of that.
That's right. Just beautiful. Such deep conversation around this. And, for a tangible element now, well, it's all been tangible, but I'm curious as to how, what am I trying to say? Like, do you envision this product in department stores, or is it going to remain in this like um you come through the website to meet the sneaker and maintain, I guess, the business model that I'm assuming is ordering online? And how do you market this product? How are you?
That's a very good question. Um, and I think as a business owner, right, a lot of times you kind of measure the ultimate level of success of getting into a department store. And that's kind of like the measuring stick that we all kind of measure our businesses with. Like, I want to be in a Macy's, I want to be in Saks, I want to be, in
Or
Bloomingdale.
I was featured in Forbes, or yeah, it's like,
Right.
oh,
Yes, absolutely. And I do have those aspirations because I think it's wonderful. But I do, like I mentioned, want to stay true to the story. And one of the things about J. Marie Premium sneakers, it's a big, bold personality, right?
yeah.
And it kind
Mhm.
of pulls you into that world when you come onto the website. So absolutely, I do see myself, the brand, in department stores, but I would love to be able to pull people into that environment, even in a retail space.
Yeah.
And I haven't even necessarily seen that done
Um,
in a department store. So that would even
uh-huh.
be something that would change the landscape of how people even purchase
Yeah.
footwear,
Yeah.
because it would, I would want it to be a scenario where you're still getting kind of drawn into like this bold, big colors, big designs, like kind of like taking over. And it's like I couldn't imagine the speaker just kind of being on this shelf
With
on the
others.
side of other. Yeah, it would be like, no, we have to have a whole exposition and
It
just
needs
kind of,
its own store. This shoe has so much
yes,
going on. It needs it. So
yes,
this is
yes.
Janyelle,
That's
I'm
where
in love. I'm like officially full. I was already, because the sneakers again, I love, they're like made for me, and I'm gonna order the Crayola because
oh
that one's,
no,
yeah, that one's
no,
perfect.
it's one of my favorites.
But like the you see here, guys, the vision that she has is not is not influenced by the standards that we're told. So you continue to be, the rule breaker, the disruptor, and say,
Ab-
yeah, these department stores, yeah, like that gold medal accolade is great, but my vision is that J. Marie Sneakers is its own
Right.
store, and that it keeps in with the like you said, the entire personality. So um I can see, I'm all like, because I love coming up with ideas and things, I'm like, ooh, like a kiosk, like a pop-up, like,
Right.
taking it on tour, like the oh my
Absolutely.
God, Janyelle, the little van tour. So you load up a truck full of sneakers and you drive around in
Oh
like
my
this
gosh, that's actually
glamorous zebra print vehicle.
that is actually a great idea. And I love that you use the word very influential. And I don't even know if you just intuitively picked up on that, but one of the taglines with the brand is the wow factor sneaker for the style influence her. And I kind of always say that, this brand is for blazers, for
Mhm.
pioneers, because it's so non-traditional, because nothing about the way the brand was started, the way it continues to grow, is kind of, the way that it's always been done, especially in this
Yeah.
genre for footwear. And I always say that, like, this is a sneaker brand that is very disruptive because
Yeah.
I want it to be that way, and I think that is where the boldness of the designs and the colors come from because it's like,
Yes.
traditionally, when you think of footwear just as a whole, most people, especially in an economy that's kind of like, inflation is crazy, people kind of buy sneakers with the intent of, I'm buying it to go with this and it's gonna and it's like, no, you can't even buy my sneakers like that.
Yeah.
It has its own personality that you literally have to buy its own wardrobe to go with the
Yeah,
sneakers.
it's like like cats, right? You come to me
Right. And it's
and
like that's
and I will assess how
wow.
it's going to play out. And in I'm the queen. These are the rules. And
Right.
so this is really like the sneaker really is its own thing, including how it will be marketed and distributed to the masses will be by its own bold, disrupt her rules, its own influence her rules
Yeah.
around um, becoming like a multi-million-dollar product company vibe, like you're walking down the street and up here in Canada, maybe in the States too, we'll presume motorcyclists will like give each other the nod or like the finger recognition when they go by each other. So J. Marie premium sneaker wearers will be like walking in Times Square, New York City, and the women will recognize the sneakers and they'll look at each other and they'll give each other like the nod.
Oh
It's like, we're
gosh,
in this
I
vibe, baby. We live in this dimension.
love it. And you know what? That reminds me of a client actually purchased one of the sneakers and she sent me an email and she's like, I walked, X amount of miles in Times Square. And so it's funny you mentioned that. And she's like, I was getting so many compliments and everybody was just like, what are those? Where did you get those from?
Yeah.
And you just spoke it into existence. So like you kind
Yeah,
of
I did. So
a
now,
thing, where people would just kind of give a nod, like, yeah, if you know, you know,
if
you
you
know.
know, you know, it's like a little secret. So, okay, so whoever's listening in New York, please buy a pair and go walking around and look for this other woman so that this comes true. And then email us about it.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
let's blow this up. I just, there I could keep talking to you forever. It's such beautiful conversation. And this
Likewise.
this other that really just brings it, I don't know, brings it home for me. Like I keep thinking in Canada, we have this uh comfortable shoe store and it's called Walk In Comfort. And it's like shoes for old people basically. And I'm not old, like I'm 41. I'm not old. I'm like
Right.
25 or 8 in my mind most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they're kind of ugly. Like they were like, oh, these will do. These I'm buying them from a good walking store. Like these are good shoes, and they've already crapped out on me 6 months in.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I'm like, man, where's the shoe? And I've got big feet,
Mm,
wide and different things, and so there's just such a beautiful gift because when you were describing the quality and the craftsmanship, I was like, oh my god, when I walk in these shoes I'm going to feel
mm-hmm.
more me. So we're talking about the evolution of the business and the growth of the personality, and we're comparing that to ourselves. And this is like a symbolic um stepping into, oh my god, that's
Yeah.
good, into
Right.
your next self by
Absolutely.
like choosing to adorn yourself with this shoe, to treat yourself with this shoe
Mm-hmm.
that one, very jokingly, one could easily quantify to their spouse. No, look, honey, it's the one shoe I'm gonna
Absolutely.
buy for the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. But
you know,
those are very good points because it's so true. Even when I hear you mention things like, having a larger foot size or a wider
mhm,
foot, and it's fitting because we do go up to 10 and a half with some of our
Mhm,
sneakers, even
mhm.
13 and a half with some of our sneakers. So that's definitely, a market that hasn't been catered to as far as
At
the
all,
style aspect of
at
it.
all.
And then, when you think about a wider foot, leather is such the perfect material. And here's
Yeah.
why, because even though when you think comfort in a lot of sneakers, when they think comfort, they use those materials like cotton or nylon, thinking about the
Mhm,
stretching aspect of it.
mhm.
And I'm gonna correlate it with a funny story because my mom, we would always joke, right, about these different plus size stores, and I'm like, why
Mm,
every time there's a store or a brand that's for plus size people, it's just like they took a curtain and just sewed, two curtains together and just
right,
like, here
right,
you go,
yes,
and it
yeah,
has
mhm,
no shape to it, and it's just
yeah,
like, why does plus size have to be shapeless?
yeah,
Why can't it be kind of like this contoured, almost like it
mhm.
gives you a shape? And I think the same way like that when it comes to footwear. Like when we think about comfort, why are those the materials that are thought of? Because actually leather is a great material for that because leather has to conform to your foot. So it's
That's
very,
right.
a lot of times I always and people, even that's a different experience for people because they're like, oh wow, when they purchase their sneakers, I always say get it in the exact size that you wear. And initially they're like, oh, it's really tight. Like I
Yeah,
should have got a bigger size. And I'm like, no, you that's how you purchase it because you want it to be fitting on your foot,
yeah.
because it's going to give you that very sleek look. It's gonna, conform to your foot. And actually, if you have a wide foot, it's going to stretch to what's exactly comfortable for you.
It's going
So
to meet you where you are and become
exactly,
one with you,
exactly.
and then you
Yes.
step together in your new
Mm,
vibe, in your new self, in your
yeah. And
next level for both of you, and you give the shoe life and the shoe gives, and it's just this beautiful, there's so
abs-
many, ripples of messaging around this unity. It's a
right.
freaking shoe, right? I just love it, from a gym shoe.
Exactly. And I love it because you see how everything just kind of goes together and without even trying. It's
Yes.
crazy. It's like, wow. I
It's
mean, I
yeah,
said this thing kind of is bigger than me at this point
yes.
because it's just like everything fits together to be true to what it is.
Yes, yes, very much. And that's so many takeaways. And so as we unfortunately have to close up
Mm.
our elegant, luxurious conversation, it's this is the takeaway of the observing the business, the nurturing of the business, and the curiosity of where it's going to go and how it's going to continue to evolve and impact.
Hmm.
That's just glorious. So, I mean, if you want to, anything you want to close us out with, summarize wisdom or humor as we
Sure,
come to a draw.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
always tell people, oftentimes I'm asked what advice would I give aspiring entrepreneurs. And I always tell people start scared,
Mhm.
start with little information, start, and I have to do this as a disclosure. I am a non-traditional business person because most
Mhm.
people look and say, "Oh my God, that's not good advice," but it is because what better way to grow with your brand? And
Yeah.
you, it would you would always be speaking from an authentic place because
Yeah.
everything about you or the brand that you create is always something that you had to grow into. And I
That's
think
great.
that it lends for a better story you know. And I always tell people that, do it scared, do it with if you feel like even if you feel like you don't have all the moving parts and all the components that you need to start a thing, start there because it lends for a great story. When
Absolutely.
everybody loves to see something come into fruition. So we have to stop having this idea of I can't present this until it's
Mhm.
completed because maybe people need to see the story of you coming, and maybe it's never going to be completed. Maybe it's just a story that needs to be told.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Very powerful message, and I'm with you 100%. I mean, I coach and support female startups,
Mm,
and get out of your own way to get going on what the dream is, because the
mhm.
whispers won't go away, and there's a reason that they've been given to you specifically, because
Right,
like, while I may have dreamed of this shoe in perpetuity for my entire existence, you brought it to life. I wouldn't
right,
have found that shoemaker in Italy. I wouldn't have made this beautiful combination of patterns. You
right.
did, because you listened and you went in, and then it exploded on you and has become its own thing that you now get to honor and
Mhm.
support and
Absolutely.
grow. And as a result, receive from as well, right? Close the
Yes,
circle.
yes, absolutely.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for filling my heart, filling my eyes, because I literally was looking at the website and pulling in and connecting further to the shoe. It's been such a pleasure, and I cannot wait to share you with my audience and the world. And thank you for creating these gorgeous, gorgeous foot decorations.
Thank you. You're very welcome. I am so honored to be on your show as well. And it was a great conversation to me as well. So I thank you for having me. And I am excited to just, I can't wait till you do get Crayola because you're going to love it. I know you are.
I'm
You're
gonna
going to absolutely love
everywhere all day. I can't wait.
it.